Hey everyone, I'm going to do this as quickly as I can, or at least in a decent amount of time, because I got a 9:15 bus to catch for work. Even though I don't start work until about 10:30. But anyway, I thought I'd come on here live, yes, live on this TGIF Friday morning. Hope you all are having a good Friday. And I thought I'd come out here and basically discuss in response. You can see it down there in response to the recent video that Silver Quill brought up. MLP-Silver Quill did on his YouTube page called "After the Fact, Get a Life," and I was wondering exactly what that meant. I wasn't really sure where that was coming from. If it was just some kind of comedic thing he wanted to do or something. And what I saw, along with many others, was a very well thought out, um, I guess you could say, discussion piece centering around what was showcased in the episode Fame and Misfortune. Now, Fame and Misfortune came out about 2 weeks ago here in the US. And basically, it was one of those fan based episodes, one of those fan related episodes, or fan based, brony based, Pegasus based episodes that the staff likes to trot out every now and then. Um, for another good example of a fan-based episode, a Brony Pegasus-based episode would be the 100th episode in season 5, which was Slice of Life, which focused more on some of the secondary, minor, and background ponies and creatures instead of the main six. So and yeah, and we got basically in that episode, from what I saw, we excuse me for a second. I had to get some. I had to get a little bit of hair off there. Hold on. Hold on, folks. I'm trying to get no hair on there. Yep, there it is. There we go. Got rid of it. All right. What was I say? Oh yeah. Anyway, like I said, and Slice of Life. We pretty much got a lot of, um, I guess you could say, answers to questions we have been wanting. Like, with Bonbon or Sweetie Drops, or whatever she calls herself. I think one of the things that fans always wondered was, why is her voice so different in each of her appearances? Every time she talks and makes an appearance, why is it so different? And Slice of Life kind of gave us that answer, like, oh, because she's a secret agent. She's undercover, so she's got to look and sound differently than any other pony. Well, not look differently, but sound differently every time because she's undercover. Stuff like that. Uh, Now, even though Slice of Life gave us a lot more scenery, a lot more spotlight on the secondary characters, on the background ponies, including even the princesses, which everybody was hoping was going to get some screen time before they did before what they got in Royal Problem this year or this season. Everybody was hoping we get a little bit more between them, and Slice of Life, before even Royal Problem that came out earlier this season, Slice of Life kind of gave us that answer. They kind of gave us, a little bit of the answer of, okay, this is who they are. Okay, you want more with the princesses. You want more development with Celestia and Luna. Here you go. So anyway, sorry, my finger at the mic there. So anyway, Slice of Life did that and somewhat more. They even gave us a duet between Octavia and DJ Pone. Um, DJ Pone, which is Octavia Vinyl Scratch. They gave us a duet between them. So even though Slice of Life did all that and more, and even gave the main six their time in the sun, if you will, even though it was at the end, um, it was mostly a fan-based Brony community, Pegasus community based episode. It was for the fans, finally giving them what they want. And I think that one, just like this one, was done by M.A. Larson, which when Dr. Wolf and his comrades, Finn, I can't think of one. I can't think of the woman's name that was with them, or the other, or his brother's name. I think it was something, Dragon something. But anyway, when they did their on camera, not in pony character, if you will, but the physical on camera, like what I'm doing now, a group review at BronyCon, basically in the hotel room during BronyCon. Uh, they all praised M.A. Larson for doing a good job here because this episode, just like Slice of Life, was mainly a fan-based episode, but excuse me, but the biggest difference between the two was even Slice of Life gave us an opportunity to see all these characters finally get some decent screen time and allowed us to get to know the characters just a little bit better. For that, that I mean, that we were that it became one of the more popular and most beloved episodes and iconic episodes, if not historic episodes, in the series run. Maybe in the top five as far as all-time episodes go with the series when it's all said and done. And I still believe the series is going to go for a decade run. I really do. Um, but when I look at, but when they praise him or give him respect for Fame and Misfortune, they give him respect for this because of the fact that this is not just, again, another fan-based episode, not just another episode dedicated to the Brony community, the Pegasus community, the overall MLP FIM fan base and community. But it was an episode that finally addressed a lot of situations, a lot of questions that fans have been, well, basically addressed a lot of criticisms, critiques, stuff like that, that fans were either for or against. And sorry for the lag there. And Silver Quill said that there was one line in the episode that kind of didn't sit well with him, and that was when Starlight basically told Twilight that it's not her fault, it's everybody else's fault for looking at the negative, or something like that. Basically, it was that one line that Starlight said that said, "It's not your fault, Twilight. It's everybody else's fault for looking at things a certain way." And basically, that kind of upset Silver Quill because that one line was kind of saying was basically that kind of upset Silver Quill, and I'm sure some others were a little upset by it or taken aback by that line because it's basically saying that what's going on is not the fault of the creators, it's not the fault of the characters and how they're written, it's the fault of the fans not accepting things as they are. And it kind of upset him because, and Silver Quill, if you're watching, let me know if I'm wrong about this. But basically, it upset him because of the fact that you're basically telling the fans to uh, not to be judgmental about something. Or, well, not judgmental, but you're basically telling the fans that they shouldn't, give an opinion or be judgmental about certain things they may or may not like. Sorry for the lag there. And but basically, it's something like that. And he did point out later on, he did point out later on that even though that line kind of took him back a little bit, had taken him and a few, if not many, back a little bit. He did say that through the characters of Starlight and Twilight, they were not telling anybody, hey, don't read the journal. Read, but learn from it. Take the lessons that take the lessons that the main six have learned throughout the series run, take them to heart and apply them to your own life. Don't use them to judge and critique what you feel has not really been learned or has not been really taken to heart by the main cast themselves. You know, don't judge the character because of what you read in the journal about them. Instead, take the lessons that they wrote down about. Take down. Oh, I've learned. This is the lesson I've learned, and now I know what to do. Take that and apply it to your own life. That is mainly what the message is getting across. And the ending of it, in a sense, when Starlight brought those two little foils back to Twilight's castle, the two little foils that Twilight had actually given one of the copies of the friendship journal to. One thing Silver Quill pointed out was that there is the writers and the creative staff, and even I said this one time when I talked about it in an audio vid. Basically, when Twilight brought those two, not Twilight, but Starlight brought those two foils back to the castle, the ones that Twilight had given the a copy of the friendship journal to. In a sense, M.A. Larson, along with the rest of the creative staff, were kind of telling us that you could be fans, you can be fans, and you could critique all you want and overanalyze all you want, and that's fine, even though you shouldn't. Going back to that one line that Starlight said to Twilight, even though you shouldn't, even though when she said it wasn't Twilight's fault, it was everybody else's fault. Basically, taking it, basically by bringing in these foils, M.A. Larson is basically saying, remember, you can enjoy the show, hopefully take these lessons and these messages and all that, and these morals to heart yourself. But remember that the original target audience is represented right here. These two little foils represent the targeted age, the original target age audience of which the show was made for. Remember, this was the audience it was made for, not just for you guys who somehow come out and shown great support and great love for this show and its characters, but what you've done is you basically overanalyze certain things about characters that don't really need to be overanalyzed. And instead, you got to remember that it's a good show, but you got to remember in the back of all this, the targeted audience stands right before you in the representation of those two foils. So, in other words, when Starlight brought them in, basically having those two characters say what they've learned by reading the friendship journal, showing that there is hope for that hope, showing that there is hope that lessons can be attained and applied in life. It doesn't just represent the fact that that's what the show was originally targeted at, but it also represents that this is something that everybody, like Silver Quill kind of said, that everybody can apply to. Basically, he pointed out that through a character like Twilight, nobody's saying you shouldn't read or enjoy the show or enjoy the lessons that are learned or that the characters write down in the journals and all that. No. Instead, you should also apply them to life. Now, Fame and Misfortune, don't get me wrong, was, like I said, definitely a fan-based episode because there was a lot of stuff that was addressed through these other pony characters that just come out of nowhere. How they address, the fact that Fluttershy hasn't really applied any of the lessons she learned. How she hasn't really changed that much. And I like how, one of the scenes that Silver Quill uses is Fluttershy saying, "Oh, you tried changing," was where Fluttershy kind of confronts this crowd or the half what is it, the glass half filled or the glass half empty or whatever it was, cutie mark elder, the highfalutin pony with the glass half filled cutie mark. One of the scenes that, like I was saying, Silver Quill used to demonstrate this was Fluttershy confronting them and saying, "Oh well, you try to change Angel." Basically, where she kind of confronted them about saying, "Well, you try changing. Let's see what you do. Let's see how it affects you," or something like that. Basically, he used examples of how all the characters feel, how the fan base feels about certain things about the characters. Like with Applejack, everybody likes Applejack, and they would love to be part of her family because she's down to earth, she's cool, but it's overwhelming that you're basically. Well, basically, I think one of the things addressed there. Maybe I got to go rewatch. Maybe I have to watch the episode myself. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm just going by what other people have said. Applejack basically, it's like, I guess through this interpretation, they're saying that everybody, it seems, every pony that they bump into, almost, could be part of the Apple family. It's like everybody always, and I think that was another thing they addressed is, how big is the Apple family? I think that was one of the things they looked at here. One of the other things they addressed was some other cults or foils that was similar to Scootaloo, I think, telling Rainbow Dash that, oh, well, we took out all the other lessons from the other ponies and only looked at yours, because you're cool and all that. You know, everything they addressed, like from rarity, they even mentioned, they even had some ponies questioning, they even had one pony character questioning, what has rarity learned from her lessons, da, da, da. Basically addressing with the rarity situation that despite the lessons that she's learned, she's still the same pony. She still manipulates. She's still at times um, ego driven, if you will. She's still highfalutin. She's still this. She's still that. And that's something that a lot of fans have asked about rarity. You know, what has she learned? Because she seems to be the same pony. She still seems to manipulate to get what she wants. She still seems to, you know, kind of choose high society or high fashion, all that over her friends, ends before it comes and bites her back on the tail. She basically, what this one pony, through this one pony character said is she hasn't learned anything. It's like in the eyes of the community, in the fan base, some fans feel that Rarity, if she's going to learn lessons, needs to apply those lessons. She needs to be that pony she is learning to be and not still be the same pony. She needs to apply that at times. You know, and then one of the things that Silver Quill was happy that they pointed out, and he even addressed this, was when the elderly pony pointed out that Twilight was was a better character before she got wings. And Silver Quill basically said that that's what inspired him to do his first video, um, back around season 3 or season 4. The fact that when Twilight became an alicorn, it essentially, in the eyes of a lot of fans, was jumping the shark. Lauren Faust, who I'm pretty sure by then a lot of people had seen the interviews where she had talked about her plans for Twilight, or even read what she had to say on Twitter or any blogs or something like that. Lauren Faust had said that I think had given the idea that Twilight was supposed to get her wings, supposed to become a princess at the end of the series. When the series would end, that's when Twilight would achieve that goal. But yet, the creators decided season 4 they were going to jump the gun. And a lot of people have felt that Twilight has lost touch in being a character. She's not the same character she was unless it's called for. Like the season 4 finale. It was called for then. It was called for then. It was called for then, in the season 4 finale. Season 5, same way. Season 6, that was about Starlight. And sorry for the lag there. So a lot of people have addressed. So basically, through this elderly pony character saying that Twilight was better off before she had the wings, is how everybody has felt about her. And I think when M.A. Larson added that scene in, it's his way, along with the creative staff's way of saying, "Look, we hear you, we understand how you feel, but I think the overall message with this episode wasn't just to probably remove certain members of the fan base away, which I doubt they're even gone or anything. I think they're just taking a break to kind of reevaluate. Okay, maybe they got a point, but in the long run, the message was, I think the overall message when it came to Twilight being the way it is, being given these alicorn wings, becoming an alicorn. Uh, when M.A. Larson added that scene in, he added the scene in by basically acknowledging, "Hey, we hear you, we understand, but you got to remember, things have to progress. If you want the show to shows have to progress. They have to evolve. Characters have to change, not in character, but physically redesign and all that." A good example, if you want one from my personal experience, is if you're a Sonic fan and you grow up with Sonic Sat AM on Saturday mornings, you had the Sally character who didn't have a vest, didn't have, pupils in her eyes or anything like that at whatsoever in the first season, and then all of a sudden, come the second season, here she is with a vest. She's got full eyes, you know, and the reason she was given the vest, according to what some people said, is the people at ABC or someone higher up said, she doesn't look appropriate without some kind of clothing. The same thing with the comics. That's why she ended up getting the redesign that she did, despite the comics going in one direction and then ultimately going in the other. That's why she got that full clothed redesign, was basically because people complained about the fact that she was, partially naked. All she was wearing was a vest. But yet, even though the creators, the writers, in this case Ian Flynn, Tracy Yardlin, everybody else, uh, did what they did what they had to do, you still had criticism by the fans. Fans felt that, okay, this is not our Sally. This is not our Sally. This is not our Rotor. This is not our Bunny. This is not our Antoine. These are not the Freedom Fighters. But even though in the Countdown to Chaos miniseries, they had the memories restored, thus making them back into the characters they were in a sense. And fans still complain because it's like, okay, fine, they have a little bit of who they once were, but it's not really them still. It's like, you're acknowledging the memories of the old timeline are going to slowly fade away. So what was the point of even giving the memories back if they're going to just slowly fade away? And that's one thing a lot of fans, like I said, addressed in this, addressed throughout the final years of the comic. They just didn't like what the redesigns of the characters. Like, some people at DeviantArt would put up little meme saying "not my Sally" or "the reason this redesign happened was because of this," and they would show a they show a picture above of the redesigned Sally, and underneath they show a panel picture. They show a picture of the last panel in one of the issues of Robotnik taking Eggman taking a blowtorch to a roboticized Sally, a Mecha Sally in this case, that's getting ready to either take her apart and rebuild her or add weaponized armor or whatever. And fans didn't like it. Fans felt Sally was better off the way she was, or could have been better restored the way she was. And that's how fans felt about Twilight. And that was addressed in a sense here. Fans never liked the fact that Twilight got these wings. I think in a way, they were in agreement with Lauren Faust that it would have been better off if you waited to the end, maybe even the movie coming out, to give her the alicorn wings, make her an alicorn princess, instead of jump starting it at the beginning of season 4 because it wasn't necessary. And a lot of people feel that it was only done because you wanted to create a toy line. The point is, one thing about Fame and Misfortune is, like Silver Quill said, it did point out a lot. It did address a lot of issues and criticisms through these other, I guess you could say, background pony characters, the OC pony characters that they put in there, and through the little Easter eggs, little Easter eggs and moments and stuff here and there, they basically acknowledging, by using these moments, these scenes, these Easter eggs, if you will, these little tidbits here and there, to basically say, hey, look, we understand and we hear your criticisms. For the staff to do that, it's very highly commendable. Did they have to throw in Starlight's line about, hey, it's not your fault, Twilight, it's every pony else's fault for looking at it a certain way? No, they didn't have to do that. Because it did take someone like Silver Quill and the many others aback. But the point is, the point is, in the long run, when you look at it, you can't really blame the fan base, because fan bases are like that. Like I said, I go back to the Sonic fan base, and when it comes to, let's say, romance, Ian Flynn stopped really pushing the romance train of Sonic and Sally with the soft retcon reboot. Like I said in that live video that I did for about 94 minutes, about an hour and a half yesterday, I said that basically Ian Flynn, even though he stopped it, was still, I should say, throwing hints here and there that there was something between Sonic and Sally, and we just had to accept. And even though, like I said, there was no you know, romantic intermingling, if you will, there was still hints and bits here and there. And I've always felt, and I still stand by this, that if another writer had come on, at least maybe giving Ian a break or something like that for the main comic, and wanted to go in the direction of saying, let's put these two together, it would have worked. Ian Flynn even tried to, as I pointed out yesterday, tried to rebuild the relationship back up to the point when 222 came out, it felt more natural. It felt more like the way the relationship should be. The way the relationship should be. It's like, it's there, you're going to have your moments, but it's not going to be in your face. So, so basically that's what he did to kind of easy for me to say, kind of subdue that argument. It's like, hey, I'm not going to do it because you guys just can't accept it. And here was why. Fans, no matter who they were, there were fans that didn't like Sonic with Sally. They wanted Sonic with Amy because, one, they were two hedgehogs, and the other, they come from the video games. They're natural. But yet everybody from Bob Show to Toon Critic himself, from Bob Show to Toon Critic himself to like I said, from Bob Show to Toon Critic himself to who else? Mega Beat Man to the Comic Book Cast, to Channel Awesome, Linkara, name it. Um, Media Man, Mixed Fan 8643 on DeviantArt. Everybody has said that Amy and Sonic can't. Even Sega has said it. Amy and Sonic will never really happen. You can throw hints in there, no matter what, And I'm sorry if you heard anything in the background. That was my neighbor's dogs. But basically, like I said, um, even Sega themselves have said Sonic and Amy will never be. Even though you can throw hints in there here and there from Sonic X, the anime and the comics, as well as Sonic Boom, the cartoon series and the comic when it ran, you can throw hints in there all you want. It's never really going to happen. It's not. It's not going to be, oh, they're going to be a couple now. No, it's not going to happen because pretty much everybody has said, like I say, from Toon Critic to many others, that Amy, in the eyes of a lot of fans, is looked at as a stalker. Even though, like I said, a majority of the fan base would want her with Sonic because the two hedgehogs stuff in the games, da da da. A lot of fans would say, okay, that's cool and everything, but let's look at the fact that if Amy wants to be his girlfriend, that's great. But here's the problem: she stalks him at times. Now you could say, well, Sonic Boom kind of chilled that out. Maybe they did, but still, there's that interpretation in the games, in certain games, and certain other media that shows that that's not the case anymore. That she's still kind of somewhat the stalker she was originally. Now, basically, when it comes to Sonic and Sally and fans wanting them together, they look at it the fact that Sonic and Sally just they have natural chemistry, and in the valid argument is, well, Sonic and Sally were in the cartoon series, and they have a natural flow. They have a natural flow to each other. They have a natural chemistry to each other. They can be each other's foil. In other words, they can always, counteract the other when one thinks they're right and the other thinks that when one thinks they're right but the other knows they're wrong. Stuff like that. They can balance each other out. They have natural chemistry, and it feels more real. That's why fans, like myself, naturally gravitate towards Sonic and Sally. Like I said, Jawbreaker, Play for Cinema, gravitates towards them. You know, there's many others, like Bob Show, I think, does as well. Linkara, I think. Hero of Tomorrow, Huey Toonmore, you name it. They all gravitate to that because it's more naturally based. It's more real. It feels more real because it's basically not it's not organic. It's not organic. It's not. I think, to take something from what John Cena said in his promo in that work shoot promo they did on Monday Night Raw to Roman Reigns. It's not a corporate. The coin of phrase that he said. It's not a corporate bootleg. Okay. In other words, it's not something that from corporate is shoved down your throat. It's not something that's a bootleg of something that feels more natural, that feels more real. And that's why fans gravitate more towards Sonic and Sally, and why even though they could say, yeah, if it was done correctly, you could do Sonic and Amy, why they don't always agree with the Sonic and Amy fan base, and that's why you have that shipping war. You know what I'm saying? Basically, you have a shipping war there that basically Ian Flynn has said, hey, I've had enough of this crap. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to put it into the soft retcon reboot of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic, Omnicured Archie. I'm just going to probably throw hints out there here and there, but I'm going to ignore it. And again, this is something that happens in a lot of fan bases. And, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is no exception either. There's a lot of fans, including myself, that would like to finally get an answer to, like that one pony they just had pop out of nowhere. And Dr. Wolf and his colleagues pointed this out. And Silver Quill used this in his video. And he questioned, oh, wait a minute, that's a thing? Where they had this one random pony just pop out in front of the screen asking, Pinkie Pie and Applejack related or what? And that's one question a lot of us would like to see. That's one of the questions we would like to finally have answered. There's no doubt. Will we get an answer? Will we get an end game to that? Another thing we would like to finally get an end game to, in a sense, is the whole Sparity deal. Is Sparity, is the whole rarity spike thing just going to be, cutesy friendship, sweet talk, flirtation stuff, you know, here on out? Or are we finally going to get an acknowledgement of, okay, there is something there. There's something more than friendship. And it's basically, I think it's like that. It's basically like one pony, that one background pony said that represented the fan base. We want answers. And then he was followed up by that other pony, that highfalutin half glass pony, half glass cutie mark pony, saying, yeah, we deserve them. So basically that's what we, the fans, at times, are saying. We'll come out and say, hey, we want answers. We deserve the answers. Are Pinkie Pie and Applejack related? Are Rarity and Spike more than just friends? What's going on here? Give us answers. But here's why I think when M.A. Larson has this all pointed out and criticized, and then you have the main six break out into the song base, saying that they're not flawless and all that. And then, like I said, it goes back to those two little foils that they brought in, representing what the original target audience was based on, what the show was original target audience was and still is. And what the friendship lessons are targeted towards originally. Basically, the reason we don't probably get the answers, and I think I said this in that audio video, maybe I didn't, but I think the reason we don't get the answers is not that we don't deserve them, but it's the writer's way, whether it's M.A. Larson, whether it's Joanna Lewis and Christine Sorgen, Megan McCarthy, or whoever, and Jason Terese and whoever. Usually, the reason we don't get the answers we want is not because we don't deserve them. It's not that. It's more along the lines that the writers are leaving that up to us to interpretate for ourselves. In other words, through this episode, they're saying, hey, you want the answers. The ending where Applejack's asking, what about the mob outside? And Twilight saying, oh, they can wait just a little bit longer. That's the writers and creators' way of saying, hey, you want the answers you seek, you'll get them, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Okay? You're going to have to wait just a bit longer before you get those answers. So but in the long run, when you look at it, it's not just, oh, you'll get the answers. That's not just saying, oh, you'll get the answers when in the long run, just not right now. But it's also the writer's way of saying, you want the answer, you want them, yeah, you'll get them, but maybe we're leaving this up for you, the community, to open up for yourself. We're leaving the door open for you to explore, for you to say, okay, this is happening. This is headcanon. This is a fact, or this isn't a fact, or this isn't a fact, or this is true, or this is false, or this is a lie. Or here's reasons why this has to happen, or here's reasons why this doesn't happen. Here's why Rarity and Spike, Sparity work as a couple. Here's why they don't work as a couple. Here's why Applejack and Pinkie Pie are related. Here's why they're not related. Stuff like that. Even the whole Shining Armor Twilight deal. Not Shining Armor Twilight, but Flash Century Twilight deal. Here's why it could work, even though he's only made a few appearances and even one or two speaking roles in pony form. Here's why it doesn't work. Because he was just naturally made to be the human love interest. Da, 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 da. It's basically, in a sense, they're saying, with that ending, saying, having Twilight saying they can wait. Basically, the writer's staff saying, we can wait. We as fans can wait, which is a good idea. If we waited this long to finally get answers on Applejack's parents, we can wait a little bit longer on other questions that we want answers to. And I think that's the whole meaning of the episode: is don't overanalyze something and don't be impatient for something that eventually you'll probably get or probably won't get, because sometimes we're just going to leave it up to we're going to leave it open to your own interpretation. And I think that's what they did. They said, look, we're going to leave this up to you, because I have a feeling that's what this episode was really about too, is leaving things up to our own interpretation. There's a lot of fans that will how do I put this? There's a lot of fans that will naturally, how do I put this? That will naturally, when it comes to certain other, franchises like like Sonic the Hedgehog comics and Sonic SatAM, like let's see, like Tiny Toon Adventures. That's a surprising example there. Um, like DuckTales, if they want to expand on the new rebooted or original universe. Rescue Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Gargoyles, Mighty Ducks, the animated series, that is. The 101 Dalmatians animated series, Sonic Underground, Sonic Boom, Fairly Odd Parents, SpongeBob, believe it or not. All these, Scooby-Doo, for example, Power Rangers, Princess Mononoke, and freaking anime. You know, there are a lot of fan bases based around the properties that I've mentioned, that have and still do expand on them through their own fan art, their own fan fiction, their own web comics, you name it. They expand on them, and sometimes they do a better job than maybe even the original writing and creative staff could. And I think, in a sense, that's what M.A. Larson, along with the rest of the creative staff, message was with this episode, is remember, the show was originally intended at first for that younger audience represented by those two foils, which is why the lessons that the main six had learned in those journals that were placed in those journals, that was the main audience they were intended for. And yeah, they could still be intended for the older audience, like people like me, Silver Quill, Firebrand, Toon Critic, Lightning Bliss, you name it. We could still apply those lessons to our own lives, morals and lessons to our own lives as well. But in the long run, it's more along the lines of, you got to remember what the original heart of the show was about, who the original or the what the original heart of the show was about at the beginning, and what the original age group was at the start. You know, and it's not to say that the fan base hasn't taken these lessons and morals to heart and even applied them to their own stories and arcs, if you will. Toon Critic has done it with the cartoons saga, as people have dubbed it in playlists if you're on YouTube. Golden Fox and Keyframe have done something similar. Lightning Bliss, has done something as well. Everybody applies somewhat of these lessons and morals and even examples of storytelling from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic into their own reviews and into their own story arcs. And that's amazing. That is a huge that shows you the influence the show has. It shows you the influence the show has. That we're able to take a lot of these lessons and morals, apply them to our own personal lives, and maybe even use them as plot points for our own personal little webisode arcs during reviews. And I like that. I really enjoy it. I really do. Heck, you have this main cast of Pony and Pegasus sisters, if you will, doing the whole TF2 analysis series. And they did a freaking, what was it, 7-part miniseries series, I think last year or so. And that ended on somewhat of a cliffhanger, in basically getting us to want, basically saliving us to want, not saliving us, but salivating us to want more. That's the word I'm looking for. It ended on a cliffhanger, and the main antagonist wasn't really Dusty Cat. It was somebody else that, like I said, when we see him at the end, once it makes us salivate for more. We want more to the question, and they still do TF2 analysis to this day. So they're taking a lot of these lessons, these morals, and story elements from MLP FIM and applying it to their own little series, which is a crossover with which is a crossover with which is their own fan base crossover with Team Fortress 2. The point is, in the long run, I think what M.A. Larson and the writers are trying to tell us is, hey, you can be a fan, you know, you can be a fan, you know, and everything, and you can analyze, you may not be right about certain things, or you may not be right in over analyzing certain things and pointing out certain criticisms and all that, and looking at the faults and the negatives and what are the positives and the acclaimness and the acclaimness and the positiveness and the goodness that comes out of it. It's like, you shouldn't be looking at, like I said, you shouldn't be analyzing the negatives and the criticisms as well as analyzing the positives and the superiority of certain moments and characters and episodes. You should be focusing on the fact that this is originally based for kids. And the reason I think, and again, I think the reason they also did that, they did this episode, is to remind us of that, but also remind us that maybe the reason we got into it is because overall, it's a damn good show. There's nothing really wrong with it. Yes, will it have its flaws? Absolutely. But in a sense, so does all the other fan bases. So do we as people. As a fan base ourselves, we have our flaws when we come out and we criticize stuff. Hey, did I like what they did with Sally Acorn, turning her into Mecha Sally and weaponizing her for 17 freaking issues? No, I didn't. Heck, I took a stand in my own way of not opening any of the issues until the saga was over, and I fulfilled my end of the bargain. The point is, just because we may not like something, doesn't mean we. I think the point is, we got to remember, just because we may not like it doesn't mean others won't like it. And I think that was what they were trying to point out here. I think that's what they were trying to point out here. So overall, I think the general message when it came to the episode was, I think the general message when it came to the episode was, you can, I think what it was overall is, I think Silver Quill's title said it best, because he even used William Shatner's SLN appearance back in '85, parodying how Trekkies, the Star Trek fan base, kind of felt sometimes about Star Trek. That basically, for a lot of us that kind of overanalyze, and there are a lot of us, myself, Silver Quill, Dr. Wolf, Lightning Bliss, Huey Toonmore, Vega, Linkara, you name it. There's a lot of us that will overanalyze and criticize certain things we may not like, but in a sense, I think what the writers were trying to tell us here was, get a life, guys. Look, and we know how you feel. We're addressing it here, but you guys need to get a life. Wake up and realize this is a show intended for all ages, but the original intended audience for the lessons to be learned and taken to heart are young men, or young boys and girls. Remember that. That's what the core of the show was targeted. That's the core. That's what the core of the episodes and lessons were aimed at, for that audience. That even though we can have good episodes, we can take those lessons and put them aside and all that, and give you comedy, give you action, give you drama that the show originally wasn't even intended to have in the first place. And that's great and everything, and you can get great episodes, great moments, iconic moments out of it, and that's great. But remember, in the end, and that this is an animated series based on a toy line to sell toys and merchandise and all that. And I think a lot of us know that, because if you take a look at my room, pretty much you kind of get an idea. Like over here, you can see it in the video, which is updating my MLP collection. That yeah, I'm a fan myself. I'm not going to deny that. You know, here you want a good example. It's here on my channel. Many years ago, about what was it, 5 years ago, I came out and said I'm not a brony, and this is when I started hearing about it. Now look at me. Shows you how much times change. Shows you how much of an influence the show and the fan base has by having you want to take a look and get an idea of, oh, maybe there is more to this. And thus you become you become invested in the show overall. So, if not the franchise. But overall, when I look at Fame and Misfortune, I look at the creator's way of saying, "We hear you, we understand." You know, the scene at the end where Twilight says the ponies outside the Hood Castle can wait, which represented us, the community. Basically, that was their way of saying, "You want your answers, you're going to get them, but you're going to have to wait." But I think in the long run, Silver Quill, if you're watching, I think in the long run, it was more about the fact that the writers were saying you're going to get your answers, but we're also leaving the door open for you guys to interpret it in your own way, maybe through your own fan works, fan fiction, web comics, what have you. You know, if we don't ever touch upon it. So really, that's all I have to say in response. I got to get ready for work. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I am out. God bless. Take care. And thank you all for watching live, and thank you all for watching post live. And Silver Quill, thank you for watching. Thank you for doing a great video analyzing the whole thing with Fame and Misfortune. Peace out. God bless.